You're listening to The Drive Home on 710 KURV. Here's the headline of the Texas Tribune article, Analysis, It's Not the Crime, It's the Politics. And the analysis is written by Ross Ramsey, who is both the executive editor of and co-founder of the Texas Tribune. So where do we want to begin, Ross?
The crime is kind of interesting. His lawyers just presented themselves. Tony Busby, who's a regent at Texas A&M and a known trial lawyer, Ben Ginsberg, a bunch of guys sort of lined up to be Perry's legal defense team. And, they'll go through the usual, and this isn't to dismiss anything or to play it down, but they'll go through the usual stuff. They'll challenge the indictment, and if they get to a point where it's actually going to go to trial, they'll probably try to move it out of Travis County, where they will say,
to the Panhandle.
Too liberal, and this has gotten too much publicity, and they'll fight this thing. So they've got the legal track going, but the bigger thing for Perry right now, just because of the timing of this, is the political fight. In less than 17 months, the first votes in Iowa and New Hampshire in the 2016 presidential race will take place. Perry's already said he's interested, and now he's got this problem on an already difficult obstacle course of this brand new hurdle of having the word indictment in every sentence that says Rick Perry.
Don't you think that his campaign is done?
I don't think necessarily it's done, not because of this. I mean, it may have been done before this. He had a pretty steep hill to climb anyway. But Perry's climbed, Perry runs pretty well from behind, and you got to take him seriously. The reason I say this doesn't kill him, Kay Bailey Hutchison got indicted, and the way she was exonerated in that case kind of filled her sails and vaulted her into the U.S. Senate and made her a political star in Texas. If you win these things and win them right and the timing's good, you're golden.
How are we supposed to look at this? Because David Axelrod, who was Obama's advisor, he says the indictments are sketchy. But then in the Huffington Post, we're going to interview this guy after you, he said that David Axelrod is a poorly informed Democrat. So,
well,
I'm sorry, I hadn't heard that, Ross. Axelrod's a poorly informed Democrat.
I mean, how am I supposed to look at this? Is the indictment right, or are the Democrats right that this is a good thing that we're getting him because he's abusing his power, or they're all wrong? I don't know.
You have to talk about two different things. You have to talk about the legal case and the lawyers, for the state here. And I should say here that the prosecutor in this case is not the prosecutor who was drunk driving.
Yeah.
It was a special prosecutor appointed by a Republican judge, and was not Rosemary Limburg. So we'll get to that in a minute. But what they said was that Perry exercised or threatened to veto funding for the Travis County DA's office. That's legal. And said he wanted Rosemary Limburg, the Travis County District Attorney, to resign, and that's legal. But conditioned one on the other, and that's not legal, they said. They said you can't threaten to, if you don't quit, you can't go in and say quit or else we're going to veto your funding, and then you can't go in afterwards and say, now that I vetoed this, if you will quit now, we'll find a way to get the money back into your office. They just said it was all improper and it was an act of coercion, using tools that legally belong to the governor but using them illegally. So that's the legal case. The public case is kind of interesting in its own right, and it's probably what you've been hearing more of over the weekend. Perry's team has made this a Perry versus Rosemary Limburg thing. She got ferociously drunk in April of 2013, made quite a spectacle of herself, did it on videotape. That videotape's all over YouTube. We got another complete, viral dose of it this weekend. She's impossible to defend. So as long as Perry's seen as, it's this lady and I'm defending Texas from giving money to somebody like that, in the court of public opinion, that's a pretty easy case.
At first blush, I'm thinking they're criminalizing politics, saying if you don't do A, I'm going to do B, or from what I'm told happens with legislators, you put in a bill and the governor says, I'll sign it if you do this. I won't sign it if you do that. I don't see how they're different.
Well, what's different here is that he's talking to the head of an office that's not in the state government. That's one thing. The Travis County District Attorney, unlike other district attorneys, has purview over state corruption, tax, and other cases. So she's the watchdog over people like Rick Perry. And you can't, the fox can't cut off the food supply to the watchdog down at the hen house. You just can't do that without having sort of a built-in conflict of interest. Now, There have been some allegations. You'll probably hear some of this from Moore later on, that the Cancer Research and Prevention Institute of Texas was under investigation at the time, that Perry was trying to protect his appointees and friends in there, and that he was, basically holding this over Lemberg's head at the same time she was investigating something of interest to him. We don't know what else she was investigating over there, but anytime you sort of get somebody who's supposed to be watched cutting the resources of the person who's supposed to be doing the watching, you get a potential conflict of interest.
So I think, can we conclude from the tone of your remarks, you think Perry's got a legal problem?
I don't think necessarily that he's guilty, and I think he's got a legal problem in the sense that these are serious charges and it's a serious group. A bunch of lawyers on, frankly, both sides of the partisan aisle have said, kind of what you did, that this is politicizing or this is criminalizing politics. You still have to go through the trials and all of that, and I think that's an obstacle. I think it's a particular obstacle. I would take it seriously if I'd been indicted, for whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the governor does too. So I think it's serious in that light, whether it's a good indictment or a bad indictment. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, and you wouldn't hire me if I was.
So some of the remarks I read right after this hit was that, well, this is all about the C-spread. So I'm thinking they're indicting him for trying. What he's indicted for is not what they're saying he did wrong. They're saying he did the thing wrong. Don't misunderstand me. What this is really about is C-spread. Well, he's not indicted for monkeying in their affairs.
Indicted for that. You'll hear some people say, there were bribes involved. He didn't get indicted for that. What they said was you used your office and the tools of your office to try to coerce someone over whom you shouldn't have any power. The proper way to do this, if you didn't like Rosemary Lemberg, was to see that she gets impeached or to have, go one of the other routes. But
no, they get any state money? The state public affairs or public integrity?
That's what the lever was. So because Travis County does public coercion cases, it's a county government, but it gets $7.5 million to cover public corruption cases in state government. And a lot of what they do is just if you owe gasoline taxes to the state and haven't paid them, the Public Integrity Unit is who prosecutes that for the Comptroller of Public Accounts. They handle a lot of things for the Attorney General. There's a lot of this stuff that's kind of not sexy, not particularly scandalous. It's just mundane government stuff. But Perry cut the funding for that, he said, unless she would resign. So here's where we are.
Well, there you have it from Ross Ramsey, from the horse's mouth, or the editor's mouth, I should say. And you can read all about it at texastribune.org, which I know will be all over this like white on rice, or
all over it now,
like newsprint on paper, or X and O's on digital. Ross, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thanks as always.
Yes, sir. Ross Ramsey is executive editor and co-founder of the Texas Tribune. You're listening to 710 KURV.